So
So who do you like? How does wrestling break down? I mean, we're going to talk about the labor rights in a second, because you're also really, you're both putting your money where your mouth is and taking, I would say, some incredible, like, courageous risks here. But what, like, I think I know what the WWE is, but what, like, or WWF, whatever. But what part of it are you in? How does it work business wise?
Sure.
Like, what league are you in?
So there's corporate wrestling, which you would know is WWE,
Okay.
or there's also something called Impact Wrestling, which used to be known as TNA. There's Ring of Honor Wrestling, which is owned by Sinclair Broadcasting, but it's a major national, and I mean, it's a huge. That's one of the big ones. There's a new one called AEW, All Elite Wrestling, which is run by the Khans, who I think, I don't know what Tony Khan's dad's name is, but he's a massive billionaire. They're all owned by massive corporations. There's corporate wrestling, and then what I'm independent wrestler. So basically, a lot of times the top stars you see on the corporate wrestling level come through the independents.
Right.
And it's essentially just a bunch of small promotions that will run all over the world. I've been on shows with, I think the most people I've wrestled in front of personally is 5,000. I've done that 3 times, I believe.
Wow.
I've wrestled in.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I've usually on average, the average show that I perform on at this point in my career is typically it'll have at least 400 people there, or like 300, 400 people there. But I've wrestled on shows even recently that have had 100 people. I've wrestled in my career. I've wrestled in front of 2 people before. And obviously 5,000 being the maximum. But yeah, it kind of, there's a bunch of these promotions all over the world. I've been fortunate enough to travel the world on wrestling's dime.
Awesome.
I've been to Hungary. I've wrestled in Israel, wrestled in Australia, Germany, England, the UK, Ireland, and a bunch of other countries.
How does
Canada,
it work
Mexico.
with like the part where, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like going back to when I was a kid, I liked Ric Flair. That's what I remember about
Hell
wrestling.
yeah.
Ric Flair was awesome. But what
He's the man.
what is there's like these, aren't there like ongoing story arcs and stuff? So how does that work if you're not like in the same league?
Well, so the idea of like the reality within pro wrestling, I suppose, like the stories or the fictional nature of wrestling is referred to as kayfabe. And kayfabe has been broken for the most part on a real mainstream level, when WWF at the time, now it's WWE, WWF at the time, when they introduced what they called the Attitude Era, which is basically when they turned pro wrestling to a lot more realism. Because if you saw WWF before, it was very cartoony. There was a lot of colorful characters. There was like Doink the Clown. There was like
David
Repo
likes
Man.
him. Again, David's super into Doink the Clown.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, Doink Clown was dope.
That's what David tells me. I'm not familiar, but he takes it very seriously.
Good.
Yep.
So when Vince McMahon basically came out and essentially had this whole thing where he's like, we're not going to insult the audiences and tell them anymore. Listen, we're telling stories here. Good guys, bad guys. We're going to bring you the most real form of entertainment we can. And it was like, okay, cool. Now it's acceptable basically to break kayfabe. So now what ends up happening on the independent level is each company kind of has, in a way, its own like kind of little bubble.
Yeah.
Where like their world is their world. You go to another company, it's their world, and you kind of exist within whatever universe they've set up. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay, got it. All right, yeah.
So I wrestle in London all the time, and in one London company, sometimes I'm a good guy with this one story, and then across I take the tube down 30 minutes. I'm wrestling for another company. I'm the biggest villain, and everybody hates me. It's just kind of the way.
That sounds great.
Kind of the way
actually.
it works.
That sounds really fun.
It is. It's it's a dream job, man. No doubt about it. Again, like what I wanted to do since I was 5 years old. So,
awesome.
Yeah, it's sick.
You just watched a Michael Brooks show video. Subscribe to get them all. Why wouldn't you? Don't be foolish. Click subscribe below and become a patron as well. Patreon.com/TMBS. Thanks, everybody.